Seeing none, thank you very much. The chair will call Glenn Dickey. Please come forward, Mr. Dickey, and identify yourself for the record.
My name is Glenn Dickey. I live in New Boston, New Hampshire. I'm chairman of the committee. Thank you for hearing my testimony. I live on a 20-acre parcel in New Boston that was part of a larger family farm that has been broken up into smaller parcels, and part of it sold to me. I have a deal. I have about 7 acres of open pasture that there's really no good use for. I am, at this point, giving the hay away to a local farmer in return for nothing, except that I don't have to mow it, which I think he likes and I like. But what I'd really like to do is I'd like to find a bunch of energy laying out there in that field tomorrow. I'd like to go out there and find a bunch of electricity or some heat that I can heat my home with. Half of my property is wooded, and I pretty much like it that way. You know, I like having some variety to the land. But as energy costs go up and I have to heat my home, what is my option? My option is to go out there and cut down my forest and burn it. And I don't really like that. I'd like to find some other things that I can grow on those 7 acres that will heat my home in the winter, but won't tear up the land. And bamboo is probably actually the best bet. The problem with bamboo is it's really invasive. It's gonna take over. And yeah, you can cut it down every single year, and it's one of the fastest growing plants on earth, but it's not native to here. And some varieties of industrial hemp would actually fit this role just as well, if not better. It's from here. You know, when the colonists came to Jamestown, they found people growing it, and there's actually references to Indian hemp. So it's not like it's some species from another planet or China for that. So that's really all I've got to say. I'll keep it short. I think I'm the last person to speak. If you could help me find some of that energy laying out there, though, I'd really appreciate it.
Thank you. Senator Cataldo.
One quick question. If you were growing it, who would you sell it to?
I'd burn it instead of firewood. That's my understanding, is that some varieties of it actually look a lot like bamboo. If you look at a picture of it and imagine it not growing out to become, you know, smokable cannabis, but staying really straight and growing straight up, a bunch of poles like that bound into sheaves, throw them in your whatever kind of burner you've got. That's my understanding.
Okay, interesting. Are there any further questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
The chair will call Bill McGonigal. Good morning, Mr. McGonigal.
Good morning.
Identify yourself for the
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Bill McGonigal from Plainfield. I'm here today as the proprietor of Sunny Woodlands Farm in Plainfield. I have some written testimony. I'll just refer to it as notes and skip everything that everybody else covered already. So as the owner of a small farm in Plainfield, I'm interested in growing industrial hemp for basically 3 reasons. But first, about the confusion between industrial hemp and marijuana. If you're growing a field of industrial hemp, so the row spacings are different, the plant spacings are different, the way that you process it is different, the way that the methods for farming it are different, and literally, if there was someone who had 5 minutes of training on what a different field, you know, marijuana field would look like versus a hemp field, that would be enough to pretty much train anyone to distinguish the two. So I don't think that there's a real chance of that kind of confusion happening. So why would I want to grow it? That's just about the trouble of growing it. So currently all of our farm income comes from farmers markets, and that's a challenging way to make a small farm succeed. The part of New Hampshire that we're in is mostly known for growing trees and forage for sheep. Plainfield used to have 120,000 head of sheep, but not currently. Our 30-acre parcel hasn't been an active farm for about 100 years, but a few years ago we just decided to cash in most of our retirement and start a farm. So it's easy to spend $20,000 buying a tractor, but it's hard to make that back at farmers markets. So if you've got a small farm, you're trying to start a small farm, it's not an easy thing to do financially. So I'd like to grow hemp as a cash crop. It grows well in the soils of New Hampshire. We've been trying, because we have such old land that hasn't been worked, it needs a lot of work. We try to grow organic, but everything we grow, we're not certified organic, but we don't use any industrial fertilizers or pesticides. And so what we need to do in order to make the soils that haven't been used for a farm better is to get a lot of organic material into that. And so how do you do that? So we've tried soybeans, we've tried hairy vetch, having a little bit better luck with alfalfa, but none of them really produce a lot of organic material, especially in New Hampshire. So a while ago I was doing research, what would be the best way to do this to get these soils to be better so that we could have a better farm. And far and away, like by a factor of double, hemp is the best option for that. So an acre of hemp in New Hampshire would be expected to yield about 10 tons of biomass. And if you're trying to improve soils, you can just turn that right back into the soil and help build up the organic material, which is essential for an organic farm. It's probably the best, there are kinds of plants called C3 plants and kinds of plants called C4. C4 plants, they process more carbon dioxide, but as a C3 plant, the hemp is about as good as you can get. There are some C4 plants that produce a little bit more biomass per acre. The trick is those are tall grasses, and they grow with rhizomes. And if you want to buy the rhizome stock, it's very expensive. So what you have to do is start very small, and then after about 3 years, you can hand cut those and hand propagate them. And then you have to prepare a field, and then you have to dig rows, and you have to hand plant all those rhizomes. And so you're 3-5 years out before you're seeing any return, which for a small farm, that effectively means you're not going to do it. So hemp, on the other hand, you scrape the soil a little bit, you put the seeds on, you cover it, off it goes. And in the first year, we're returning significant organic material to the soil. And the last point is that unlike such grasses, hemp is a source of food for humans. So an acre of hemp in New Hampshire would probably produce about a ton of food in the form of seeds each season, maybe a little bit less. Some of the cold weather varieties, I hadn't heard about those before today, but that would probably help make New Hampshire a little bit more competitive in the seed production. So that's great news. And a personal note for my family is that this plant is unique in its production of high levels of omega-3 fatty acids. So it's unique for us because my daughter has a medical condition where she requires higher than average levels of omega-3 fatty acids in her diet. Before we finally figured this out, she was getting sick for about a whole week once a month. This is a 3-4-year-old kid. And fortunately, finally we figured out with the omega-3 supplements, that doesn't happen to her, which is fantastic. But it's also tricky buying it as a supplement. They're very expensive. You have to be really careful. If you don't get the kind of omega-3 supplements that are molecularly distilled, then you're putting heavy metals into your kid's diet. So you got to watch out for that. And they all come from fish oil. So I take some myself. I know a lot of people take fish oils. It's good for your heart. But it's because of the omega-3 fatty acids. The trick is it's so successful and popular that the fish stocks that they're taken from are actually in a bit of a danger. Down in Chesapeake Bay, the Manhattan fish are really taking it on the chin for people to get their fish oils. And so ironically, my daughter needs this product. I probably need this product, the omega-3 fatty acids. And I can look out my window and see a field where I could be growing this stuff. So I would encourage the committee to support this, to support HB 153, and take any questions.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions? Senator Cataldo.
Just one quickie. Do you know how deep the roots go?
How deep the roots for hemp? I'm not sure what the root structure is like.
It
doesn't need. I know it doesn't need prepared soil, so either it's got a very strong taproot or it has a shallow root structure. I'm not sure.
Are there any further questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. The chair will call George Roberts.